Looking to have your groceries delivered? Try Instacart. By following the link in the show notes, you can shop multiple stores, get the products you love from local stores, and get your delivery in as fast as 1 hour. Plus, Instacart highlights deals to save you money. And for our listeners, free delivery on your first order over $35. Hi, this is Bob Sorrentino from ItalianGenealogy.blog, and I'm here with Desiree Short from Michigan, and we're going to talk about her ancestry searches and roots in Italy. So welcome, Desiree. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
How is it in Michigan today?
It's actually going to be a really nice hot day, so I'm sure my kids are looking forward to playing outside, and it's nice here. It's nice when we have nice weather.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. So I'm going to start with my typical first question, which is how, why, and when did you start doing your family research?
So growing up, I always knew I was Italian. Both my grandfathers are Italian. One's 100%, and then my other grandfather is 50%. And, growing up, I always knew I was Italian, but I didn't know a whole lot about my ancestry. About 20 years ago, I looked at the Ellis Island records and I found the ship manifests, and that was all really exciting and kind of looking to see, where they were coming from. And, but it didn't go past that. That was a long time ago. So, at that point, nothing went farther than that. And then in 2004, I decided to study abroad in Florence. And I wanted to kind of get back to my Italian roots and, learn the language and live in Italy for a semester. And during that semester, my dad came to visit me, and we decided to go to the village that his grandfather was from. So my great-grandfather was born there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so the village is called Campoli Appennino, and it's just this mountain village south of Rome, and it's kind of hard to get to. So we had to, take a train and rent a little car, and it was definitely like an adventure with my dad. And we knew that we probably had relatives there, but we had lost all connection to them. So I had looked in the white pages, and I said, "Hey, they have our last name. Let's just go knock on their door." And that last name is Cornali. It was changed in Ellis Island to Gorno, which is kind of a strange change in my opinion. But so we went, and here my dad and I walk into this village, and I have a little bit of broken Italian because I've been learning Italian. And the first door we knocked on was this wonderful man and his daughter. That his daughter was like the same age as me, so she was in college too. And so they were like, no, we're not related, but we'll show you the village. And we're like, hey, you have to be related. This town is so small, and you have the same last name. And they're like, no, we're not related. I promise you. And they, between their broken English, my broken Italian, we spent a whole weekend with them. They were so kind and welcoming. And my dad went and looked up, went to the little courtroom and found the record of his grandfather's birth. And we spent the weekend with them, and we left our names and our phone numbers and our email addresses. And then we were on our way. And we were kind of disappointed we didn't find any family, but, we had such a good experience in the village, and it was pretty fun. But a couple years later, we actually heard from family. So I'll put this in perspective. So Laura Donna, who is my age, she's at a cafe. It's around Christmas time. And there's all the kids that are her age, my age. They're all hanging out around, one of the cafes. There's a table, and they're all talking. And someone asked, "So have you ever spoke English? Like, have you ever spoke to someone in English?" And Laura Donna goes, "Actually, a couple years ago, these people from America came to the village, and that's the only time I've really spoke English." And this other girl, Grazia Maria, was, kind of interested, like, oh, really? Okay. What are their names? Where are they from? And when she said Gorno in Michigan, Grazia Maria, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. She goes, that is my family. I've heard the stories my whole life about my family that immigrated to the US. And I know that their name is Gorno and they went to Michigan. She runs home. She wakes up her grandma, her mom. They're crying. Our family was looking for us and didn't find us. And they got on the phone and they called us. So then I've been back to visit her probably 3 different times since then. And I get along great with her, and I just love, seeing her and having that connection.
Wow, that is so amazing.
Yeah. So that's my story from my dad's side, my dad's side. So my mom's side is a little different. I just started researching this year, and I have already found, looking on Family Search, I found a relative, a 4th cousin in Italy. My mom's side, her father, he was born in Brooklyn. Um, they I didn't know much about them. His mom and dad, so my great grandparents came over from. My great grandfather was from a small village called Ferrandina, which is close to Matera, and my great grandmother was from Matera, and they immigrated to the U.S. and they ended up in Brooklyn, New York, and that's where my grandfather was born. And they were barbers, which I've heard is a pretty common profession. I didn't know much about them. So last year, all the Colucci's, the big family, we went and we did a trip to Italy. And at that time, we hadn't made contact with any relatives, and I hadn't really begun my ancestry search yet. And so just this year, February, I started really putting my family tree together and really searching out and trying to find relatives and connect the dots.
Well, that's something. And from my end, I mean, that's so great that you found people like that. I actually found Italian cousins that I never knew existed through Facebook. My my grandmother, my father's mom, her last name is Piramalo, which is not a very common Italian name. In fact, it's from one of the minor noble families in Naples, and I just started looking around and found Piramalos and said, "This is my grandmother, and this was her mother, and this was her father." And I researched these people, and they came back. And one person in particular, Cinzia, who speaks no English, and I don't speak hardly any Italian. She said, "Yeah, I know who you are. I know who the family is." And
Wow.
we were able to piece together that my great grandfather was her great great grandfather's cousin.
Oh, wow.
And so we did all of that. We were supposed to be there in April and meet everybody and have a big lunch with like 23rd and 4th cousins. And of course, that all got canceled.
Yeah, we're hoping to get back to Italy too, and we're hoping for next fall is what we're putting on our calendar. Just because of everything that's going on, we just don't know. But yeah, we're hoping too, and at that time, I'm really hoping to meet some of these relatives that I've connected with. I guess there's, we have relatives in Matera and Ferrandina and Lorenzana possibly. And, I really want to get there. And as time goes on, it just becomes more and more important.
We'll be right back.
Experience Italy like never before, traveling with a scheduled group or create your own bespoke tour with friends with philitaly.com. Pack your bags and follow Phil. That's www.philitaly.co. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. And we were actually supposed to stay in Matera because my mom's family
Oh,
is from Torito, which isn't that far away, I guess. In Bari, and my
yeah.
my dad's family uh, and mom's family come from two totally different social stratas, if you will. Dad's family from Naples was very well connected, especially my great grandmother. Her family I've traced back to Naples and to 950 AD.
Oh,
And
wow.
mom's family were poor farmers, from Bari, and I was so excited when I found somebody that was a seamstress as opposed to a farmer in that family.
Yes, I found lots of farmers and seamstresses in my family tree as well. And how did you trace your roots that far back? Are you hitting any roadblocks or I I've traced some far back, but not nearly as far back as you have, and that's kind of been a focus for me this year. I just started on this journey, and I would really love to go. I want more information. I'm trying to do my best to build this family tree and get more information.
Yeah, so I had two roadblocks. The interesting thing on the Bari side was pretty easy because for some reason Bari has some of the best records on the Antonati. All of those were filmed. I don't know if they
Oh,
started there
nice.
or how that happened. So they were pretty easy to get back to, the mid 1700s. On my dad's side, I had two roadblocks. Um, the first big roadblock that I had was with the Sorrentino family. I could not find my dad's father at all. I couldn't find it, and I knew his first name. I'm sorry, my dad's grandfather. I knew his first name had to be Achille because that was my oldest uncle's name,
Hmm.
and my dad had passed away, so I couldn't ask him. So I asked his cousin, and she was telling me this Mateo, that she was told Mateo, and that just didn't make any sense to me because there was nobody in the family named Mateo. So um, I finally reached out to a genealogist over there and said, "Look, I have this roadblock, and I also have a roadblock on the Piramalo family because even though I was able to find um, my what I who I believe was to be my third great grandparents in one of the nobility registers, I couldn't be certain that I was tracing my great grandfather to them. I was 99% sure, but I don't take anything for granted.
Yeah.
So they came back and they said, yeah, we'll we think we could help you with that. So on the Piramalo side, they found my great great grandfather, um, and my his father was, oh, his parents were the Count Giacomo Piramalo from Montebello, and my third great grandmother was Duchess Beatrice Capici Piccicelli.
Those are
And what
some
she had
titles.
done, yeah, and what she had done was this is very unusual. She inherited the title of Duchess when her brother passed away. So there must have been no males heirs in the family. So when she got the title, she merged the names Piramalo Capici Piccicelli into one name and gave that name to her firstborn son, who became the Duke when she passed away.
Oh, wow.
My second great grandfather and all of his siblings did not get the full name. They only had the Piramalo name, and that's why I couldn't find them. Uh, but I've since found the records and found my great grandfather and his father, and putting them back to the Duchess and all of that. So that was the first big roadblock that I had, and he confirmed what I thought. On the Sorrentino side, I couldn't find anything, and uh, this is interesting in that I had been waiting almost a year to hear from them about the Sorrentino family. and getting nothing. In fact, I was going to call him and say, look, just, forget about it. If you can't find it, you can't find it. My cousin, who was kind of my go-to person here in America, because she had lived with my grandparents, she passed away. And 2 days after she passed away, they sent me a dump of all the Sorrentinos.
Wow.
So, you could say coincidence, or you could say, I don't know, somebody nudged somebody someplace. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so they gave me this data dump of all these records, and I found out that I was right. His name was Achille, my father's grandfather. And I have some great records from them because he was actually a lawyer. And I just recently learned from here in New Jersey that he ultimately became a Supreme Court justice in Naples in the 1800s.
Oh, wow.
And his father was a pharmacist. So my dad's father was pretty well connected, but not nearly as much as my grandmother. So, that's kind of the advice I give to people, most especially in Italy. You can find some people who will help you out, and they're fairly reasonable. I mean, I think they gave me about 10 hours worth of research for I think it was about $500.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I probably got from them at least 50 to 75 records that I probably wouldn't have been able to find. And then that opened the doors to me to find some other stuff. So let me ask you, I'm assuming that you've done you've done a DNA test, yeah?
Yes, and I've done a DNA test on Ancestry, and then I'm also on the GEDmatch. And I actually have found, relatives, and I kind of put together because I knew their last name was in my tree, and it's been really fascinating just finding that. So our Colucci side, I always had heard that my great grandfather had came over by himself at the age of 18 from Ferrandina and was all by himself. Well, turns out his mother and his sister emigrated not that much, within 10 years after him. And his sister had a big family in New York as well. And it was amazing that I've found relatives just based on my tree in the U.S. that, my grandpa's cousins, we didn't know he had cousins. And so for the family, the Colucci family, that was kind of shocking. See, it's not surprising though. My family has Huntington's disease. My grandfather had Huntington's. We think his father did as well. My mother has it. So it's something that's in our family. So some parts of the Huntington's, my great grandfather, I guess, was kind of put in a mental institute because they didn't know at that time what it was. So, losing touch with the relatives and stuff, that's not surprising given the nature of the disease.
Wow, I didn't realize that they had done that. I mean, you do see the horror stories out of Ellis Island, and we just saw a documentary. Well, not just maybe 5-6 months ago, that was very eye opening about not just to the Italians, but to other people. And I did not realize that the terms like imbecile and moron and idiot were all coined at Ellis Island by this one particular doctor who took photos of people, and they would compare these photos to an immigrant and categorize you based on these photos.
Wow.
Totally shocking.
Yeah,
Totally
it is.
shocking.
Yeah.
And it was solely because especially with some of the Southern Italian and Slavic mostly, where they would do this kind of stuff. I wouldn't have believed it if I didn't see it and they didn't actually show you, the pictures of the people and how they did it. It was, fascinating and sad at the same time.
Yeah, definitely.
So your name is Colucci with an O. I have from Bari, I have family, Carlucci,
Oh, yeah.
Carlucci, I think it is.
Yeah, I've seen there that Carlucci is a pretty common name down there, and Colucci is pretty common too. We have Colucci and Policelli, which are both pretty common names in that region. So I've been I need to do more research, but I've kind of it's hard when you're going through the records, and we have Antonio Colucci, and there's four other ones in the village, or so it's like, oh well, which one is this?
I know it is. It doesn't get confusing. Well, I have on my, I think it's my grandmother's side. I was going through the records on the Antonati, and I found my grandmother's brother's name was Domenico, and I knew Uncle Dominic, and that's who he was. But when I started doing the research, I found there was Domenico. He died. And then there was Domenico, and he died. And then there
Yeah.
was Domenico, and he died. And then there was Domenico, and he died. And then finally, the Domenico that I knew made it.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, I said, I get the whole thing about the naming convention, but you would think after the second one, somebody would say, "Yeah, maybe this isn't the right name for
Yeah,
us."
exactly. I was shocked at how many the rate of deaths for babies when I was looking through Antonati, the records for my family. I just was shocked at it. But the records I was looking at were in Matera, and they lived in caves. Um, and so you have to think the living conditions couldn't have been that great, and having a newborn, and it just was crazy and sad to me looking at the records, and being like, okay, and then you see the infant die, and then you see another one and another one, and yeah, it was very shocking, and I could kind of understand why some of my family came to the U.S.
Yeah, no, I know, and my mother's family came because my grandfather had served in the uh, war in Libya, and
Oh
um,
wow.
and my grandmother said, "You went to war once, you're not going again." But they left my oldest uncle in the care of his grandparents, and uh, by the time he decided he wanted to come, he had already become of age and he couldn't come. So he didn't leave Italy until around 1949, 1950. So all my cousins from that uncle were all born in Italy.
Wow. And you've made contact with them?
Well, no, I mean we know. I mean we know them because they came. They came in around 1950. They went to Canada. They had to spend almost 5 years in Canada before they got to the U.S. So I want to say they came to the U.S. around I don't know 1954, 1955, or something like that. Um, so my uncle had not seen his parents for 45 years, and he had never met his brothers and sisters.
We'll be right back.
Lafayette, we are here. The French history podcast for the American public by a Frenchman. Learn all about France's fascinating history, its great characters like Charlemagne, Joan of Arc, Louis XIV, or Napoleon, but also the great events that marked France, Europe, and sometimes the whole world. Lafayette, we're here. Available wherever you get your podcast or on LafayettePodcast.com. À bientôt.
That's so amazing.
Yeah.
And now, have you looked into dual citizenship at all?
It crossed my mind a couple of years ago. I'd really like to do it, but it's
Mhm.
just so much work, and you got to do all kinds of things, and it takes so long.
It is.
One of the things I have a pretty good connection over there. And in fact, she was the one who was going to help us do the tours, or is going to help us do the tours. Um, her company is Italy Rooting, and there's, I think she said, about 100 tour places or tour companies in Italy that have got together with the government to try and jumpstart now the economy and tourism and all of that. And she's in charge of the international part, and she wants me to be involved in some capacity whenever they're ready for it. But I said to her, I know this is a whacked out idea. I said, but I'll throw it out there anyway. I said, if the Italian government was smart, they would look at, Italian Americans, or maybe, European, Italians, whatever, that may want to either, get dual citizenship, come back, buy a vacation home, whatever, and allow us to stay longer, because you could only stay for, I think, 90 days.
Yeah.
Allow us to stay maybe 180 days. Allow us to buy property or rent. And eventually, maybe after 2 years or something like that, if we can, prove our heritage, if fast track us to citizenship. I have a friend who did it. She did it and moved there permanently about a year and a half ago, and she loves it. Yeah, she loves it.
Yeah. So that's my answer. That's their retirement dream. So as a family, we're gathering all the documents, and like you said, it's a long process. But that's the dream, to get a place in Italy, and they want to retire there. And I remember when I went just for school there, the process of me getting my visa, it was a pretty big process, and I would love to just give my kids the opportunity to be able to spend some of the time in Italy and kind of learn our heritage. And so we are trying to go, we're starting to collect our documents, and that's kind of our dream, is to get dual citizenship.
Yeah, and she had started it, and she was doing it by herself. Eventually, I think she did have to get some help, but she was down almost to the end, and she went to the consulate. She had lived in Los Angeles, and she went to the consulate and had all her papers and everything all there, the way she explained it. And I actually have a podcast with her. I'll send it to you so you can listen to how she went through it. And she got there, and they found, I think it was her grandfather's birthday was off by 2 weeks.
Oh, no. So she probably had to go the 1948 route, which is what we have to get a lawyer, and it's more expensive. But my grandfather, he was born just a couple years after my great grandfather naturalized. So that breaks the line, and it is a long process.
Yeah, well, she actually, I believe her father was born in Italy. So she actually cried, and he told her, "Oh, okay, just go fix it and come back. You don't need a new appointment. When you fix it, come back." So she got away with it. But see, in my family, my mom's parents, I don't believe either one of them ever became citizens, because they didn't really have to. On my dad's family, my grandfather became a citizen, but it was after my father was born. So my father was born in 1923, and my grandfather became a citizen, I think, in 1934. And my father's mom, I don't believe, ever became a citizen. I mean, if I did, want to do all of that stuff, I would.
Yeah. It's a long process for sure. Yeah, it really is. We're right in the middle of it.
I mean, I think it should just be granted to me only because, my grandmother's grandfather was Prince Luigi of Naples, so I think I should just get it automatically.
Absolutely. I agree with you.
I don't think they're going to buy that. But that was my plea to her. I said, if the Italians really want to jumpstart their economy, let Italians that, and I said retirees, I said like over 60
Absolutely.
that can prove that they could support themselves, and have at least without all the nonsense, prove some cursory ties back to there. You know, and then, you know, my mom's family, like I said, my uncle was born there. My dad's family, his older brother and two of his older sisters were born in Italy. So his my youngest aunt with him and my father were the only two that were born in America from that family. So we'll see. We'll see if Letizia can
Pull some strings.
jumpstart these people over there and
Yeah.
get them to give us a break.
Yeah, I have heard that they're trying to do like heritage excursions, like different tours of like your ancestral villages and stuff. And that's definitely something that my family and I would be interested in. Absolutely.
Well, the thing that Letizia does, which is pretty neat, is that's exactly what she does, but they're not canned tours. They're set up for your family. So that's what we were going to do. And she wouldn't tell me everything that was going to happen, but what she did tell me was they were going to bring me to some of the ancestral homes. For example, on the Duchess's side, her family home is now the City Hall on Capricata up in the mountains outside of
Oh,
Naples.
wow. I bet that's so grand.
Some of my from Calabria, some of the homes are still there from the Piramalo family. And my one cousin said, you know, she was going to, you know, take us down there. And so there's several places that are scattered around. The Grand Hotel, one of the big hotels in Naples, the Hotel Caracciolo, was my ninth great grandfather's home.
Wow.
And it had really fallen into disrepair. And since, I don't know how many years, maybe the last 20 years or something like that, they actually, you know, fixed it up and opened a hotel. So, you know, obviously we're going to go there. But that's right on the street where I found the birth and death records for my great grandmother and most of her family, and they must have owned the whole street. It's one of the main streets in Naples, and they must have owned the whole street because the records show this person was born at number 23, this person was born at number 28, this person died at number 30. So, and when you look at the street now, you could see that it was almost like a row of apartments, like all together.
Wow.
So they must have all lived there, and that's, you know, that was it. And when we went to Naples 20 years ago, I had no idea that we were at the train station in Naples, and they lived a half a mile from the train station, and I had no idea back then.
Oh no.
So you know, I was so pumped to go, as you could imagine.
Absolutely.
And do all of this. And then we had this virus. We were going to try again this fall, but that wasn't going to work. So we're shooting for May, keeping our fingers crossed that, you know, they come up with a vaccine or some other. But, you know, Italy, they're fine over there now.
Yeah,
They've been
I
sending
know.
me
Because they
pictures.
did.
I've been watching
Yeah.
movies.
Well, yeah, I really hope that you can get there. And I'm hoping my family and I can go visit this next fall too. Hopefully next year, you know, hopefully that everything kind of works out for us. We went to Matera, and at the time we didn't, you know, we hadn't looked at any records, and now I have the records, so I see like the Policellis that live there. I see that you know, their houses. I can see. I went to Google Maps, and I could see their, you know, the houses and where they lived, and I'm really hoping to visit there. And maybe I haven't found any family on that side, but I'm really hoping that before we go, I can try to make contact with someone.
Yeah, I'm sure you will eventually. And, you know, my great grandparents' home where my uncle lived is still there in Torito, And my cousin was there, I think, probably last year sometime. And and he was in the square where he
Uh-huh.
lived. He was about 3 when he came over, so he didn't remember everything. But his sister had gone, his oldest sister, and she had gone to the church where they went, and she knew all the streets and everything like that. But
Oh, I
one of
love
the
it.
cool things with my uncle was my cousin, my youngest cousin from that uncle. He taped uh, an interview with my uncle in Barres before he passed away. So I was begging him to translate it into English, and finally he did it with his sister, and it was just amazing because he chronicles his life from roughly, I want to say, about 1906 until he came to America in 1950ish. So he talks about you know going through the town with my great grandfather. My great grandfather owned a cow, and he would walk through the town with my uncle. And if you wanted milk, they would stop in front of your door, milk the cow, give you the milk. uh, and then what it was like, through the war years, and meeting um, my aunt, and with my aunt, he, even though I don't think she was rich either, she apparently was from one station above him, and the family did not like him at first. And then finally, he went into the army, I think, and when he came back, they finally agreed to let him to let them get married. And then then he talks about the war and all of that kind of stuff. So
You are so lucky to have that record. And yeah, that's so interesting that you can read that and kind of envision what he went through and how he lived. That's
yeah,
amazing.
and my cousins, the house where they lived, the house was a 2-room house, and one room was, I guess by that time my great grandparents had died. One room was for my uncle and aunt, and my way my cousin put it, one of the girls, she said, "Mom and Dad stayed in that room with the newest baby," and she said we all stayed in the other room, and that was their bedroom with a curtain, and the living room and the dining room, and they had the big fireplace that was for heat and cooking. Now we were talking 1940s here. No bathroom, no bathroom. Bathroom
Wow.
is still out in the back. So I've talked to my cousins about it, and my other cousin, she was about 10 when the war started. So she remembers, the Germans bombing, and uh, selling things on the black market, and not having enough to eat, and eating beans and things like that. And she said, you know, and by comparison to some of the other people, they were well off because they at least had the house that was theirs. Um, so that's a real connection that still people that I could talk to about it and giving me their insight and what it was like. Um, so I want to ask you one other thing. Um, you mentioned some roadblocks that you had. Is there anything about that where you really stuck? And also, what have you found that kind of just blew you away?
Sure. So some of the roadblocks are mostly, some of the Antonati records just not being very clear and not being able to read those. Um, and also, it just is so time consuming. So we did hire a genealogist for a little bit, and I have been able to sort through the records, but I have young kids, so I don't have a lot of time. I'm a working mom, and I don't have a lot of time to just comb through those records and try to make sense of some of them. So that's the biggest roadblock. Also, um, some of the records don't go back very far, or the ones that are back farther are just so hard to read, just not very clear, maybe bad scans. So that has been my biggest roadblock. And I guess the the most exciting thing for me was to kind of see my family came from a village in Lorenzana, and then they immigrated, the D'Onofrios immigrated to Ferrandina. And on Family Search, I was able to kind of piece together the records from Antonati, and I found a fourth cousin that is D'Onofrio cousin. And, you know, it was just amazing being able to get in touch with her. She lives in Matera, and kind of, she said, yeah, you still have family, you know, in Ferrandina and Matera, and we're just kind of waiting for you to be able to come visit. And we want to show you around, and we want you to meet all of us. And so that for me was just the most gratifying part of all my hard work and hours putting into trying to find ancestors and research. And I have a long way to go. I haven't been able to track the Policelli side very far. I know my great grandfather had a twin, and I'm sure other siblings, and I'm sure they're probably, you know, some of them might still be in Matera. And I really want to kind of just crack away at that and find more relatives. Another big moment also was figuring out that my grandfather had cousins in New York and just how the family had no idea. My aunts and uncles were like, they had no idea that there's second cousins out there. And finding out that they also, that line of the family also has Huntington's disease was kind of like, wow, you know, it's a disease that's kind of hit my family kind of hard. And hearing that, you know, my great grandfather's sister also had it. It's just really, it's kind of amazing to connect the dots, I guess.
Yeah, and I have the same issue with the Antonati that you have. My records are always written by the guy who writes like me, and you can't read any of it. I'm going through these records, and all of these people have these beautiful script, and then I get to mine, and it's the worst handwriting in the world. But
I know.
Yeah, and I had the same experience that you had, because for my grandmother's family, I never thought for a second that I had any relatives over there.
Yeah, it's
distant or
amazing.
not. Yeah, and obviously they didn't know about me, so they were kind of shocked. At least a couple of them were kind of surprised that that they had a cousin in the United States. And I found that once we started comparing things, like I have a card. I call it his calling card. I have a card from my grandfather, my great grandfather, that has the crest on it and his name, and it says he's from the Dukes of Capricato. And so
Wow.
when I sent that to them, one of them sent me back a card from about the 19. Now my grandfather's card is probably from around 1900. They sent me back a card from one of their relatives, one of their grandfathers, from around 1960, and it was very similar. So it was like this was amazing. And then we sent some pictures back and forth, and there's one picture of a person that, while he doesn't look exactly like my father, you could definitely see the family resemblance.
Oh, absolutely.
But one of the most amazing things was my second cousin. They sent me a photo. One of the cousins sent me a photo of herself when she was probably early 20s. And I looked at this photo, and she looks exactly like my cousin Susan. I mean, if you put the pictures next to each other, they could be sisters. They could be almost twins.
Wow, that is so amazing. I love hearing those stories.
Yeah, and so that to me was the most exciting thing, was like you said, to find that you actually still had cousins over there that you could talk to and ask them what it was like, and compare notes and do things like that. So And my wife thinks I'm nuts. So
No, my husband does too. He's like, "What is this obsession with Italy?" And he does. He doesn't really get it, but then he's also like in awe about it too.
well, and there appears to be one of us in every family that has this craziness. And I was speaking to she's a genealogist, but she's also a spiritualist. And I was talking to her about it, and she said, it's not an accident. She said, they want us to know. She said, and that's why when these things pop up, it's because somebody pushed it that way. Now, you could think that she's nuts, or you could also say, well, maybe. But I've talked to several other people that had similar stories. And one person I interviewed, this was amazing. She was looking for people. Didn't know anything about the town where she came from. She knew that her one of her grandparents had nobody to leave the property to, and they left it they gave the property to a friend. She was looking for a place to stay, like a B&B or something like that. She narrowed it down she said about 50, she narrowed it down to 2. And she did like eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I'm going to take this one. When she called to book it, they asked, oh, why are you staying there? This is such a small place. So she explained her family and gave them the last name. And the woman said, hold on, I'm going to go get my mother.
Oh my
They were the people that inherited the land from her great-grandparents.
Wow. That is such an amazing story. I love hearing that. It gives me hope too. Like, just that kismet, or how that just kind of happens is just amazing. When we were in Matera, we stayed in one of the cave hotels, and a lot of my aunts, were sleeping it, and they just felt like, wow, we've been here before. Like, it was just so comfortable, the city and the ambiance. It was like, that memory of their ancestors. It's just an amazing thing that happened.
Yeah, no, I felt like that when I was in Italy. My wife was saying, she said, you love it here, don't you? I said, I feel like I belong here. And I don't think
Yeah.
everybody has that feeling. I just think it's ingrained in certain people to want to do this, to want to find this. And I don't know what the reason is. Like none of my cousins, my brother, I said they could care less. I find something, they say, oh, that's nice. But I have that drive, and I don't know why.
Absolutely, I'm the same way, and I have cousins that aren't really interested, and I'm that way, and then I have some aunts that are that way, and we're just like, okay, we're gonna make it happen. Like, let's find a village in Italy and buy a property, or buy a house, a vacation home, or my aunts want to retire there, and we just have that drive to kind of go back to our roots, and it's a special thing for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time, Desiree. It's a lot of fun. It wasn't so bad, was it?
No, it wasn't bad at all. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Follow us on Facebook in the Italian Genealogy group, or at www.italiangenealogy.blog.